We've seen tool libraries sprout up all over the world as a result of what we've done here. I've gotten contacted by people in New Zealand, by people in Belgium.
The Toronto Tool Library is one example of what is a much larger movement around the sharing economy. And if you take a look at how the internet has changed the game on what's possible, it's phenomenal. The technical infrastructure is now there.
I got an email recently from a guy in Ireland who's building a tool library there.
The press that we've managed to get, other people are saying now, that doesn't seem like it's out of my realm of possibility to achieve.
You're getting much more than access to a particular product or service. You're actually getting access to a community of like-minded people who share your values.
And just like we were inspired by people all over the world, like Portland, Atlanta, Seattle, Vancouver, we want to also spread that message too.
My typical work day is basically me going to work in a nice suit, sitting in a boardroom at some client that's paying about $450 per hour for my services, look at their financial statements before that information gets to the public on a public stock exchange. Now I look at my job in accounting and I say I didn't make any impact at all. Any impact to the world that I wanted to see in any way whatsoever. I was still like, this is, I guess, the best that there is, the capitalist system, or whatever we want to call it here. So it wasn't until I found another system that made sense to me that I started changing my point of view. I just quit outright, left that job. I dropped a six-figure job to go to basically a no-figure job.
My name is Lawrence and I'm the president of the Institute for a Resource-Based Economy. And our first major project is the Toronto Tool Library. We didn't have a space, we didn't have any policies, we were just doing a bunch of research. So for 1 year we got desk space at the Centre for Social Innovation. It's an example of the sharing economy because I don't need to own an office there. I really just need access for maybe 30 hours a month. They were helping us grow our business plan.
Someone who had a charity, who had a basement space that they weren't using, and they were willing to clean up that space if we paid them, a small amount of rent. It was a disaster, that space. We had to renovate it. So sharing economy basically is the idea that you don't need to own a lot of things, you just need to access things. So that makes sense for quite a number of things that we typically consume. So tools is one example where people don't usually use them all that often, they need to access them. Cars is another good example.
It was a massive investment, time-wise and emotionally, for me to do this project. If it was to fail, that would have been absolutely dream-crushingly devastating.
My parents live in a very different world, and they were like, doesn't seem like a good idea,
I don't think that I doubted that it would work because it just seemed we were creating a community hub that people needed and they wanted.
Just from one little small news article, it took off. Donations started coming in like wildfire, so we had more donations than we knew what to do with in terms of tools.
For $50 a year membership, you can borrow whatever tool in the tool library for a few days up to a week.
Yeah, see you Sunday. Yeah, see you soon. Yeah, thanks.
Most of our donors are older. They're either retired or they're close to retirement and they don't use their tools anymore, or they just really connect with the project and they care about their tools. A lot of these tools are in very good condition. There used to be this culture of really preserving your stuff. Now there's a throwaway culture much more than there used to be. They want them to be used for the future.
I drove it over in my dad's car. I gave them something around 100 tools from my house. Now my house is clean, now other people are going to benefit. All around good feelings.
So they donated like a drill press, a metal chop saw.
And hot air gun, of course, another thing you might use once a year to like shrink wrap some plastic, but other people could use it for a million different things.
And a wood chop saw, the welder.
It takes a little bit of knowledge to work with, but once you read the manual, basically, you can start practicing. It's pointless to have it lying around when I'm not using it, so why not share it? Like, people here aren't going to break it that easily. It's a pretty sturdy machine.
The only thing you can see once I put my mask down is the light from the arcing tip of the nozzle. So I have to get everything exactly in place where I want it to go. When you're all done, you started with a scrap metal pile and you finish up with something that you can use or hang on the wall that is a piece of art.
So right now we're in the East Side Tool Library. Second location happened almost immediately after the first. And we have a wood shop now and a makerspace with 3D printing and a lot of soft tools that you can use for soldering.
I am a carpenter coming to Toronto. I don't have this in my bachelor apartment. So it's great that I can come out here and use all the tools and make whatever I like.
Tools are special because not only are they expensive and rarely used, but they also fit with the idea of building a new society, because these are really what make our lives the way they are. And that's really what tools do. They make your life better.
They were going to just throw this all in the garbage. I grabbed quite a bit of it and I've made wooden pens out of this. I've been able to save money and make some cool projects also here.
As another resource sharing project, we're incubating the idea of the kitchen library here inside the tool library. And this itself has attracted a huge following. A lot of people come specifically to get the kitchen equipment.
I think it's a revolution that's happening really from the ground up. It's not a revolution that you're going to convince the large corporations to change their ways.
This is an open source 3D printer. The machine itself prints parts to build other 3D printers.
With places like this where technology is at the forefront and people are creating their own technology, there's big shifts happening.
I created this file in my computer, which is just a cylinder, 60 millimeters across. This is what this is producing right now. It's exciting because it opens up manufacturing to the small scale. So I can design something on my computer that I could never buy and print it on a 3D printer out of plastic. And I can do that within an hour or two.
You can't have 7 billion people live a quality of life that, certainly North Americans have currently, because there just isn't that amount of mineral resources on the planet. So if you don't share it, then you're not going to be able to have everybody have that lifestyle. And if they don't have that lifestyle, then there's this inequality in the world, and that eventually comes out in other ways, and usually very difficult ways. Probably, income inequality is usually violence associated with income inequality, or wars, resource wars. And sharing economy does address that because we're consuming less tools than we would have if everybody just owned them. But still, we need to do better. We need to design them so they don't break down. Like this drill, it's great that we can share this drill. We'll get much more usage out of it than if somebody just owned this alone. But how was this manufactured? And is this drill designed in such a way to last as long as possible with as little maintenance as possible?
Sometimes it's very difficult finding plastic parts, and that just the ability to produce your own whenever you want for pennies, it's amazing.
This handle is just made of plastic, and we could replace that with a 3D printer if it broke.
3D printing before, maybe 5 years ago, it was so amazing. Today it's losing its luster. It's more like, oh yeah, 3D printing, I totally know about that. I think that sharing resource projects are also getting to that stage now, where before it's like, oh, you're going to share tools? Now it's like, of course we're going to share tools. How could we not do that? How could we all own a drill and a circular saw and a jigsaw and a hammer? Like, it's so incredibly wasteful.
The sharing economy would not have been possible 20 years ago because we simply did not have the technology to be able to manage that sharing relationship.
This is an amazing success. Ask me in 5 years if we'll be here. I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. I mean, these ideas are bigger than just this space, right? So if this space weren't to succeed, but the ideas as a whole succeed, I mean, is that success? I would say, yeah, probably it is.
Another example of the sharing economy is AutoShare or Zipcar, Airbnb. And the question is, where else will you start to see it?